Well, Donald Trump has been indicted for a second time, now on federal charges related to the handling of classified documents while out of office. The indictment remains sealed. There has been reporting that there are 7 charges involved. It's unclear what impact all of this could have on his run for the GOP nomination, though he's still far and away the front runner in a crowded pack among the Republicans. Trump remains under criminal investigation by the Department of Justice and Georgia's state prosecutor for his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Yahoo Finance's Rick Newman is with us now. So first, a federal indictment for a former president, Rick. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, what effect this could potentially have on the race. Give us your thoughts here this morning.
Well, remember what a big deal it was when prosecutors in New York City earlier this year, they charged Trump with crimes. I think this overshadows that. And as you pointed out, Julie, there could be a third indictment coming from the state of Georgia. So the analysis within the Republican Party is somewhat amazingly that this does not really hurt Trump among Republican voters. I know it seems crazy, but he retains a sizable lead in the polls. And in some ways, this seems to benefit him among his supporters. That's been a very familiar storyline. However, I think there are some caveats here. It clearly gives people running against Trump tons of material that they did not have in 2020 and that they did not have in 2016, which is he's now been charged with multiple crimes. And he may end up convicted of crimes by the time the election is actually held in November of 2024. So we know that on the Republican side, at least one candidate, Chris Christie, the former New Jersey governor, who is also a former federal prosecutor, he is going after Trump big time. I mean, he has basically said it's his mission to take Trump out of this race. You also have the former vice president, Mike Pence, who is not being as aggressive as as Christie, but he is also basically saying it's time to move on from Donald Trump. So you're definitely seeing fissures there rather than deference to Trump on the Republican side. Will this make a difference? It's unprecedented. The old refrain is never count Trump out, but I think he's weaker than he's ever been as a politician.
Rick, even as we work through the 2024 scenarios, we've had discussions in the past where you've said that the markets actually might be leaning towards hoping that there's a Biden a Biden kind of re-election, because then the markets would have something in terms of certainty. However, the other part of this equation, too, is if it's not Donald Trump that's running against Biden or whoever the Democrats put forward, then what would the markets do with that? So essentially, with this information in the indictment, will the markets react at all?
Right. So in other words, how do we spin this forward for the markets? I think it's impossible to do right now. But I mean, put it this way, the market is fine with Joe Biden. We saw no quaking in financial markets when Biden got elected in 2020, nor when he took office in 2020. I mean, obviously, there have been weird gyrations in the markets related to COVID, rising interest rates and everything else. But look, Biden was not so unfriendly for markets. He wanted a big increase in the corporate tax rate. That did not happen. He couldn't get that through Congress. I mean, a lot of the things that markets would not have liked about a Biden presidency that Biden would probably like to do, he can't get done because he has to get it through Congress. So this is probably a reasonably good outlook for markets. Trump generally is friendly for markets, except for the chaos factor. I mean, one of the things about Trump's presidency that markets really disliked was the trade wars. That sent markets up and down on a periodic basis. And I suppose we could go back to that. But if it's Biden, markets are good. And if it's another Republican, Republicans generally are friendly toward markets and toward businesses. So I think that's pretty good, too. So not a lot to worry about for markets here, I don't think.
All right. Yahoo Finance's own Rick Newman. Thanks so much, Rick, for setting the stage for us for what we have to watch going forward on that front.